This is my intro music. Welcome to the video. I hope you like it lots, so don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Now let's
Hey,
react.
hi, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Let's Listen to Anna's podcast. Woo! We're actually going to back up an episode to do episode 2. I'm behind a little bit. I honestly don't know how many of these we're going to end up doing altogether. Mainly because, I don't know how long this podcast is going to run, and I'm not that interested in it. Each episode that we've listened to so far have not been that medically mysterious. And I was told that with the second episode there was some some really interesting, basically from what I've been told. I haven't listened to it yet, obviously. But from what I've been told, this episode is the woman gets prescribed medication, it makes her dizzy. She doesn't think to stop taking the medication, and so she's dizzy for years until she goes to another doctor, tells him that, hey, my medication makes me dizzy, and the doctor goes, stop taking the medication. And lo and behold, she's no longer dizzy. And that's the mystery. So we'll find out. But again, to distract ourselves, we're going to be playing The Sims. We are still playing. Let's see if I can hide this real fast. We are still playing Nova Curious and Erwin Prize. Prize? I don't know his last name. Anyway, they're married. And Nova is Pergers. I am trying to get Erwin Preggers too. I want him to get kidnapped by aliens. I want him alien Preggers. We are starting a generational thing with these two, and we've done the scenario with Nova, and I changed her hair. I think I might change it back though. I'm not liking the red. I like her hair white. Anyhow, point is, we're also doing this thing from The Sims, the strange visitor thing. I thought Erwin would be a good candidate for that because he's weird. And it's supposed to be a time traveling future visitor. And I just figure Erwin's the perfect character for that because he believes in aliens and all that good stuff. So here we are. So yeah. For those of you invested in the what little Sim story that you get in these podcasts episodes. So there you are. There you have it. All right. So let me bring that back up. Gonna have this hangout down here in the bottom. So this is gonna be Kathy's story. Let's see. Kathy's story, the case of mysterious double vision. It's double vision. See, in this shocking episode of The Medical Detectives, Dr. Aaron Nance and Anna O'Brien sit down. Well, at least they don't say doctors. Sit down with Kathy to unravel a years-long medical mystery that took her from a diagnosis of ADHD in childhood to a harrowing journey through depression, bipolar, and physical debilitation. Kathy shares her story of navigating a healthcare maze, encountering medical bias, and her relentless pursuit of answers despite feeling dismissed by numerous specialists. Gee, Anna, tell me if you have a medical bias without telling me you have a medical bias. I'm almost positive Anna's the one writing the copy for these. I only say that because, I just got done going over all of Anna's blog from 2013. Yeah. Let me tell you what, after reading her book and 2 solid years of her early blog, I know how Anna writes. And this sounds like Anna's writing. Anyway, through this trial, error, and her own determination, Kathy finally uncovers the surprising culprit behind her debilitating symptoms and rediscovers her sense of self. That's a lot. This episode offers an emotional exploration of resilience, the pitfalls of fragmented care, and the importance of advocating for yourself in the face of uncertainty. Join us for a heartfelt conversation that inspires hope and empowers listeners to keep fighting for their health and well-being. If you have a medical mystery story that you would like to be featured on the show, please email us at yada 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 40. I don't know why that's there. That's usually like a placeholder. You don't usually leave that there. Anyway, onward, as we say in the business. No, we don't. We don't say that. I don't know who we are. it's not giving me the little mini player this time. I don't know why. Kind of sad about that, honestly. And I'll be adjusting the sound as we go. I don't know how Apple works, so if you're an Apple user and you're using Apple Play or whatever the hell the name of it is, let me know if you guys can still leave comments or if you can still rate the podcast there. Because Anna has basically cut off her community's ability to talk with her, at least through YouTube. And now it looks like through Spotify, at least. TikTok, as far as I know, you can still leave comments as long as they're kissing her ass. Instagram has always been highly curated. And you can try to talk to her on Threads, but she'll probably block you unless you're somebody famous. So good luck there. The point is that Anna has really created a... The point is Anna doesn't handle criticism well at all. And so instead of like letting it roll off her back, she has created a hug bunker, not a box, a bunker. Like she is basically ignoring the fact that there is a world outside of her weird world that she has created for herself. And so she cannot receive any form of criticism. I do know going into this that she's getting, at some point around this time here, she's supposedly getting her arms and her calves done for her surgery. She's getting liposuction done on those. And apparently she's having skin removal done. So apparently Anna's solution to weight loss is not actually to lose weight. Her solution to weight loss is to literally have the fat cut off of her. So she's basically having the fat sucked off of her body and then any loose skin just sliced off of her without doing any of the work to lose the weight first, which whatever. It's her money, it's her body, it's her life if that's what she wants to do. But hang on. There we go. But if we look at the international standards for the treatment of lipedema and lymphedema, this is like the absolute worst way to go about treating lipedema, which is what Anna has, right? Or Anna claims to have. And I don't doubt that she does. It's just if she does, this is the worst way to be treating it, according to everyone except the US. Put it out there. All right? Anna's not a medical mystery, no matter how hard she wants you to believe that she is. Anna is obese. Anna needs to lose weight. Anna doesn't want to put the effort in to do the weight loss, so she'd rather blame magical mystery obesity genes. Okay, and just pay for surgery to have that done. I don't know what she's going to do when the weight starts to come back on and the fat cells that she has on her body still start to expand, because that's how fat works. And she starts getting weird deposits of fat on her body now because she sucked the fat off of everywhere else, right? It's going to look very strange. It already looks strange. So there we are. All right, but this doesn't have anything to do with it. This is Kathy's story. This is the second episode of the podcast. There's 2 other episodes that are newer, and because there's one that just dropped for, Wednesday, and there's one from a week ago. I think I might do those 2, and that'll give us 5 episodes in. I think after that, unless something major happens, I don't think I'll do any more of these, honestly, just because I figure 5 episodes in is probably, we'll know how the podcast is going, right? And we'll just kind of keep an eye on it and see if the podcast survives. Like I said, once a week is a pretty, yep. It's a pretty strenuous schedule for a podcast. So I don't know. And these are obviously recorded. These are obviously pre-recorded. Though I did notice something in the description of the most recent podcast where there's an actual social media link for the person that they're talking about in that episode, which none of these episodes leading up to that one have. So anyway, let's get into Kathy's story. I do have this sped up, so if they sound fast, that's because they are. So anyway, let's get into this.
Welcome welcome back to another episode of the Medical Detectives Podcast. My name is Anna O'Brien, and I am here with the always lovely and very informative Dr. Erin Nance. How are you doing, Dr. Nance?
Hi, Anna. I'm doing great. I'm so excited off of the heels of our last episode and all of the wonderful things that you shared with everyone. It was just...
They got so much hate mail. They got so much kickback. Hate mail is not the right word. They got so much kickback from that episode that's why Anna turned the comments off on everything. Like, they got so many questions about, are you freaking serious? And people were like, this is what even is this podcast, that Anna turned the comments off. So I don't know what she's talking about.
So amazing to get to know you on a personal level and hear your health story, which I know is going to help so many people.
And you know what? It was nice to be the first because I kind of like ripped the Band-Aid off, right? And showed people that it's not that scary to talk about health, which is actually why we're doing this
It was nice to be the first because I like being the center of attention.
podcast. And this week's kind of cool because following off, last week's episode, which definitely talked a lot about weight stigma, this week's episode is actually going to talk about a type of stigma that's just as pervasive, which is mental health.
We all know that your mental health is part of your overall physical health, but sometimes it feels like that can color the interactions that you have with your doctors.
Yeah, I think it's an easy thing to see on a medical record and just...
Alright, sorry, I had to move things around again.
say like, oh, is this person trustworthy? Which is like hard to say, but it's what happens, right? The doctors look on the thing and they say, oh, she's just bipolar. I think anyone who has struggled with mental health issues, which I honestly have as part of my journey, can sometimes feel like those come at the forefront of your experience rather than just like a different shade of color. So I think this story is really great because it really is going to introduce us to just how detrimental that can be when people don't listen to you because they see information on your record about your mental health.
And it's about the power that mental health labels sometimes have in a negative way when interacting.
The hell are you two smoking? No offense. I'm sorry. So your whole argument here is going to be that this woman didn't get the treatment she needed because she's got ADHD on her medical chart, and so her doctors didn't treat her properly. Is that going to be the argument we're going to be making here? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I call bullshit. I'm sorry. I know somebody in the comments is going to be like, I have ADHD and my doctors treated me like shit. Okay, I'm sorry that your doctors treated you like shit. But look, man, the majority of the millennial generation has ADHD. Okay? It's like the most common diagnosis other than depression. I'm sorry. No. Whatever. I should probably actually listen to the argument before I go off, but here we go. Let's go. I know, by the way, Anna, of course, found a way to turn this around about herself, so...
Acting with your medical team.
Absolutely. I think labels are a beautiful thing because they help us understand like common characters.
You know what? I came from Gen X, and that's like the only label I'm really actually cool with. Gen X hated labels. Y'all other generations are just like, I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. What? Do you just sit around making up new labels so that you can call yourself something new? Like, what the fuck, man? Anyway, no, labels are problematic. No, y'all need to quit coming up with labels for shit.
But at the end of the day, sometimes they are the very thing that keeps us from getting treated. So with that, I think it's time to just jump right into the story.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you so much for joining us on The Medical Detectives. I'm Dr. Erin Nance.
My name's Anna O'Brien, and I'm here just to hear you out. I'm excited because I love a good mystery. Any good mystery I'm in.
I'm so happy to be here, you guys. I'm excited to tell my story.
You sound excited.
I'm hoping by telling it, maybe it will help somebody out there.
I can guarantee it'll help somebody out there.
Well, Kathy, can you take us back to a point in time when you are little Kathy and what it was like kind of growing up?
Sure. Well, we do really have to go back to the beginning to understand how this medical mystery came to be.
There was once one atom in the universe, and it expanded. I don't know how. We haven't figured that one out yet. Until finally it went kaboom. And all of the universe came into being. Then, billions and billions and billions of years later, on a small little marble of a planet, not too far away from the perfect space of the sun, there started life. I'm sorry, I'm just going to stop now. Come on, Erwin, get abducted.
Because the mystery doesn't start until I'm in my 50s, but the reason I didn't get a
How
diagnosis
old
really
are you? You
starts
don't
when I
sound that
was
old.
just a kid. So starting out with little Kathy. Little
Kathy doesn't sound that old, honestly.
Kathy, at 2 years old,
I don't know what old
was
people sound like.
diagnosed with ADHD,
Whoa.
which back then, way
seems-
back in the Wayback Machine, was for girls was not diagnosed, but I had pretty severe inattention.
I will give her that. If she's 50 or if she's older than 50, excuse me, if she's older than 50, she's older than me. And that would mean she was like early Gen X, if not late boomer. Yeah, probably early Gen X. And yeah, all of these diagnoses, these were all new. And they were very, very new for women. We were mostly diagnosing boys with it because, men. Because, penis. Very, very important. Anyway, yeah, sure, he can be a genius. So, yeah, she probably, I'm surprised she even got an ADHD diagnosis at that age, being a woman, being a girl. So, I don't know. So, yeah, she is correct. That would have been a very strange diagnosis. Are you getting hit by a... Okay, you're not.
And impulsivity, also hyperactivity. So
Can I ask a quick question? Because
Yeah.
I'm genuinely curious. Is 2 years old an age that you can diagnose ADHD? Because, like, in my mind,
Saying she got diagnosed with it at 2? Ziggy, what's 50 years ago? Let's be generous and say she was born in 75. That means she would have been 2 in 77. I have a problem. I'm got a skeptical that she got diagnosed with ADHD in 1977 at the age of 2 as a girl. I'm sorry, there's just a lot of things there that don't add up. So, will they diagnose a 2-year-old today? Probably. They like to diagnose everybody with ADHD these days. So, yeah, I could see today diagnosing a 2-year-old with ADHD. Back in 77? No, I don't think so. I don't know. Especially a girl? No, I don't think so. That doesn't sit right with me. I'm sorry, my skeptical beacon's going off. Am I a psychiatrist? No. Okay, so like, no. I'm not swallowing this pill. I'm sorry. Sorry, Kathy. I'm not buying this one.
that's something that you would have to be like a little older. But, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but you are Dr. Nance. So please tell us a bit.
yeah, I don't think it was
Kathy's older than Dr. Nance. Kathy's older than Dr. Nance's practice. Just putting that out there.
Tell us
yeah,
what
it was
you.
not normal to be diagnosed. And I think maybe that might help with just how severe my
Okay.
very precocious. I could,
Did you go into labor?
speak like full sentences at 9 months. So I had really
wow.
these incredible verbal capabilities. But then on the other spectrum, I was all over the place, couldn't sleep. They would find me in the neighbor's yard, behind sofas. I was all over the place.
Oh, so it's another Anna. Okay.
So
So are you like hiding or like just would just run away or
curious, very
Curious.
curious, and
Okay.
very mine sort of never shut off. There was no off switch. Never took naps. Was just constantly going. And my parents did not want to medicate me. The treatment is speed. So they just didn't.
Oh.
They didn't want to treat me. So
Okay, look. I'm sorry. I'm still calling BS. I'll give you that you were super duper advanced and you were speaking in full sentences at 9 months and sure, whatever, man. Okay. Whatever, man. Wow, you sure? Okay, anyhow, I'll give you this. I'll give you that. Begrudgingly. I still am not buying an ADHD diagnosis at 2 in 1977. I'm not giving you an ADHD diagnosis at 2 in the 70s. I don't care where on the spectrum you were born or where on that timeline you were born. I would be skeptical of that in the 80s. Just no. I'm sorry, no. Yeah, you should take Irwin with you. He is the daddy. He's your baby daddy. Anyway. Okay, let's go.
Eventually, though, I learned how to kind of rein it all in. And really, for the rest of my life, all the way through school, it was mostly that, oh, she's really bright and she has so much potential. She just isn't reaching her potential. You know, you're very animated and you're very articulate and you understand what's going on in the world, but you can't do math, you know? So that was my ADHD. And as an adult, I became an entrepreneur. I owned my own company, ran my own business with, 35 employees. It was very high energy, high stress. So that's what I did. And I, got married and I had my kids, and about a year, so not immediately after I had my second child, but about a year after she was born, I started to get very depressed. Hopelessly depressed. I couldn't function, kind of depressed. My business was suffering. I wasn't as good of a mom. And I eventually went and saw a psychiatrist. And he said, well, you have ADHD and you have depression. And so he gave me the typical sort of Prozac and Adderall. So for the first time in my life, I was given those two drugs and I took them. And I continued just to get more anxious. And so then he added in the classic Xanax.
Y'all are going to have to let me know if you had this combination, because I didn't. This combo that she's talking about, she's on like 3 separate drugs now for depression and ADHD. Y'all have to let me know. Everybody, I guess, goes through a different way of doing things, but I don't know. Since I'm already skeptical of her origin story, I'm skeptical of every step of the story from here on out. And that's the problem with me being skeptical of the beginning of your story, is now I'm going to be like, really? So if y'all have had a similar journey, let me know, because I know a lot of you have similar issues, because like I personally think that people who have ADHD and these kind of like we don't like people disorders, like I think we gravitate towards the internet because it allows us to socialize without having to be in the room with people, kind of a thing. So I think like my point is like the internet is weighted towards a bias of people like me, and like this woman is claiming to be. So anyway, we're naming you Orion. Orion. Actually, yeah, we're gonna Rigel. Used to know a guy named Rigel. He was funny.
So
did I spell it right?
I had the uppers, and then in the afternoon when things would get just too bad, then the downers, So, and that's the way it went. It just went that way.
Kathy, can you describe what it felt like to go from someone who was really running on all cylinders, having children, running businesses, to all of a sudden feeling this new feeling of depression, and what was that like for you?
It was otherworldly. I mean, I felt like I wasn't myself. And I know that's such a cliche term to you. I'm just not myself, but it's such a weird feeling to be a functioning human being and then go to not being able to do anything. It's isolating. And it got to the point where I used to think, if I could just maybe drive my car off an embankment, not to the point where I would kill myself, but just so that somebody would like put me in the hospital and just let me check out of my life for a few days. just something to just like a reset. I just needed a reset.
I have felt that way before, and it is
Of course you have, Anna.
it is a dark place. It's like you don't want to take
Yes, Anna, tell us about your story.
that step that's final, but
Yeah.
you just want to be alone for a little bit.
Yeah.
This will be an interesting episode because we've got two people who clearly want to be the center of attention. So it'll be interesting to watch them compete for the spotlight. Though, in all fairness, this is Kathy's story, so
Yeah,
Or
you don't
not
know,
be responsible.
Yeah, you don't know what you want. You just know that you want to
Mhm.
get out of the pain that you're feeling right then. And so that really freaked me out. And I decided to check myself into a hospital. So I checked myself in inpatient, and that's when they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. And I thought that that was so bizarre. The whole sort of inciting incident, I guess, is I stayed up all night doing one of those like scrapbooking things where you're scrapbooking with your friends and you're staying up all night, and then you go home to your family and kids and try to continue on with the day. Yeah, a bad idea when you're in a mental health crisis to do that. And then they sort of thought, well, we think maybe you were on an upper and you were on a pretty high dose of Prozac. Both of those push you into what could be like a hypomanic phase. And then
it could also be that ADHD thing we do. Somebody just told me the name of it. Bedtime revenge, something or other. God, someone just told me the name of it. Basically, it's a thing that ADHD people apparently do where we've been responsible adults all day and we want to have me time in the end. Like, I want to play video games at night. And so basically, I stay up all night playing video games because it's my time. Gosh darn it. I'm an adult. I can do that because I want to. Very adult behavior. And then you end up staying up till late. You don't go to bed. And then you're grouchy and tired the next day because you didn't get enough sleep the night before. And it's apparently an ADHD trait. That kind of sounds like what happened. It doesn't really sound like I don't know. I don't have bipolar. I don't know. But I don't know. Since she already has ADHD, why are we seeing zebras when maybe we should just be seeing horses? I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor.
After the hypomanic or a manic phase, you crash. And that's the scary part of having bipolar depression. And they said I had bipolar 2, and I kind of was devastated because, I just knew that was like a diagnosis that I just didn't want to carry with me. I knew people that had bipolar disorder, and I just knew that, bipolar 1 is the more classic.
What's the difference between 1 and 2? Because I honestly don't know.
Wasn't Amber claiming to have BP2 when she was claiming to have bipolar? She was claiming that she had bipolar 2 or something like that.
Yeah, from my knowledge as a layperson, I'll tell you what I think.
Love it.
Maybe
Go
Dr.
for that.
Nance wants to say something else, but my understanding.
Yeah, Dr. Nance, would you like to add some of your medical expertise into this medical podcast? Maybe. Problem is Dr. Nance is like a hand and arm doctor. I'm sure she's very good at what she does. Not a psychiatrist, not an obesity doctor. Just because she's got DR in front of her name does not make her an expert in all things medical. But the way the show is using her is as a crutch for authority for all things medical. But it would be nice if she would, I don't know, use some of that faux authority to explain things to us.
When I was going through this was that bipolar 1 was the classic manifestation where you had manic phases that were accompanied by sort of maybe not delusional thinking, but maybe inflated sort of ego,
Grandiose
thoughts, and like going out and spending a ton of money, or like just jumping on a plane and flying to Japan without telling anybody. But the bipolar 2 is this hypomanic phase where you get a lot done, you're really excited, you have lots of ideas, maybe you pick up a crafting project here and there and everywhere, and things are a little chaotic in your life, and maybe you don't sleep or you have a hard time sleeping, and then it's the crash. And I don't know, Dr. Nance, is there a difference between like on the crash part, the depression part? Is it different in bipolar 1 and bipolar 2? I can't remember.
Yeah, Dr. Nance.
I don't know if there's any other.
From what I recall, it really is more the mania
Yeah,
portion.
yeah.
So, bipolar, meaning between two states, the mania and the depression, and exactly what you were talking about, those classic symptoms. And it's always the gambling. They always talk about the people who they gamble huge sums of money. These are the people who are staying awake for 3 days in a row in Las Vegas, and it's very impulsive. That's really the level of the mania, and that's typically what we think of the bipolar 1.
Okay.
And it's correct. The bipolar 2 it's not at that level,
Right.
but the depression part, everyone experiences their depression differently. But the point of bipolar, it's this pendulum between the two states, and it's usually
So bipolar 1 is extreme mania that can last days, and bipolar 2 is milder mania. Okay. Anyway,
preceded by the mania, and then you go into the depression.
Okay. So like one is more extreme pendulum shifts potentially than 2 in a very basic way that probably does not cover everything.
Yeah, I think that's the way I understand it. Yeah. And
Okay.
I always had, when I'm sitting there and they're giving me this diagnosis, they didn't specify I had 1 or 2. They just said I had bipolar disorder. And
Okay.
so I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't do any of those things. I'm scrapbooking. I stayed up all night scrapbooking. Not gambling.
You crazy girl, you.
Did you tell them you were doing extreme scrapbooking?
Was it like parkour and scrapbooking at the same time?
It was a little, maybe it was a little hardcore, but everybody else left the scrapbooking thing that we did and they were all fine, but I wasn't. And so I go on with my life. They put me on lithium, which is a very common drug. And then they also gave me Lamictal, which is an anti-seizure medication that they use for people with bipolar depression. They use it for mood stabilization.
I think I remember ALR being on Lamictal. Lithium, really? I don't know. I've never been on it. It was never even suggested, so I don't know. These are all drugs I've heard of, but they're all because oh, you don't want that one. And I know that's like a stereotype thing. So, I mean, it's like if you're on it, you're on it because you need to be on it. But these are just weird combinations in my head. So let me know, because I don't take these drugs. They've never even been offered to me. So there you go.
And I lived like that for a long time. Ups and downs, but nothing extreme, nothing crazy. Was able to continue to work and raise my family. And then my kids all left home. And then I hit another really super depression. And
Can I ask
yeah.
Oh.
Nope, shut up, Anna. All right, so far, she's had supposedly an early diagnosis of ADHD at 2 in the 70s as a girl. Still not swallowing that pill. And then apparently she just shrugged it off, as you do, and went on and had a normal, productive life, as you do with severe ADHD. And then at some point developed severe depression, severe enough that she checked herself in to get treatment. Cool. And then it was turned out to be bipolar type 2, but really she was just being told that it was bipolar. So when did you find out it was bipolar type 2 if they just diagnosed you with bipolar? Your own words, not mine. So then you got treated for that, and apparently they put you on 3 different drugs for that. And then you were fine until the kids left home and you had basically empty nest syndrome. That's what it sounds like to me. Again, not a doctor. And now they're putting you on lithium and Lamictal. Did they take you off the other 3 drugs? Are you on 5 separate drugs now, or are you just on lithium and Lamictal? Because I'm starting to see where the problem might be. What is she on now? So she'd be on What did she say? She was on Adderall, Prozac. I forget what the other one was. Lithium and Lamigdal. If she's still on all the drugs. So I can see where the problem might be stemming from. Throwing that out there.
Can I ask a quick question? So during that time when you were taking these medications, when there was that big shift, did you feel okay or did you just feel alive? Because I guess what I'm trying to understand is like, were you present in your life or did you feel like the medication just made you? Because I've heard other people say that they sometimes get numb from these medications.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah.
where do you think those were? Do you think they were working for you or do you think they were just like making life tolerable?
I actually think they were working for me. And I really feel like, yes, at the beginning, I felt like they dulled me quite a bit. But I felt after I'd been on them for about 5 years, which is a long time, that was my new normal. And I still was creative and did fun things and had joy and enjoyed.
I was fed up with it after 2 years, but I wasn't on Adderall. So I've never been on Adderall. Don't know what it's like. Somebody probably in the comments is on Adderall. You'll have to let me know. I remember one time being at a conference talking to a guy who was on Adderall, and they told me that they would schedule days in their week for them to not take their Adderall. And they would schedule a whole day in because when they wouldn't take the Adderall, they would just basically be completely listless and dead to the world, and they wouldn't be able to do anything. And so they basically just scheduled that day off from life. But they felt like it was necessary. I don't remember the entire reasoning behind it, but everybody does their own thing. I'm sure it wasn't recommended by their doctor. It's okay. Look, man, anthropologists are weird, okay? We're an odd bunch. But that's the only person I've ever met who was on Adderall. So I don't know anybody else who uses it regularly. So there we are with that. I don't know how Adderall makes you feel. I know it's an upper. I don't know how that would interact with Prozac, because I know Prozac made me feel like I was just packed with cotton. I don't really have a better way of describing it. Like, I wasn't depressed, but I wasn't happy, and I wasn't mad, and I wasn't anything. So I was like, I need to get off this. This isn't working. 5 years you did that? Wow. You were okay with that for 5 years? Jeez.
My kids and enjoyed my family, enjoyed my life.
So it felt like a solution.
Yeah,
like
it
you
did.
felt
It
happy
actually
with
did.
it. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that's when you start to say, okay, well, maybe that is what I have, right? So,
and now it's managed and I can live life normally.
and I'm
Yeah.
good. Everything seems fine. Going along, I'm trucking along through life. And then my kids leave. And I knew the transition was going to be hard. I just didn't know it was going to be that hard. And it was debilitating. So, my doctor, he tried to mess around a little bit with dosages here and there. And then he switched me to a different medication. And COVID happened. My mother-in-law got very sick. I had to move her and her husband across the country during COVID so that we could take care of them. And eventually, not long after we got her home, she took a turn for the worse and then was put on hospice and had very hard, like 3 months, where I, as her caregiver, it was emotional and it was physically exhausting. It was mentally exhausting dealing with end of life issues, especially with somebody who doesn't want to die and hasn't come to terms with that in their heart. So that just like tears you apart inside to watch that. So I kept myself busy though, took care of her. She passed away, and then I just threw myself into, projects like outdoor projects and working on the yard and just trying to keep my mind busy while still feeling this horrible sort of depression inside of me. And I got to the point, I went back to my doctor. I said, something's got to give. I mean, this is just not letting up. And so he upped my Lamictal. And then, when you're on psychiatric medications, it's really like a chemistry game. And you have to take one medication and then you have to wait. You make a change and then you wait. So
That
if
would
that
drive me
doesn't work,
nuts.
you've waited, 2 or 3 months trying to.
Yeah, we know, Anna. We know you like instantaneous responses to things. Like, Finding meds that work for you takes time. It takes 6 to 9 months on average to adjust to a new medication. You have to work with it, Anna. I hate to break it to you, babe.
See if it's going to work. And then you can't just make a bunch of changes, because then you don't know what's good and what's not good, what you need to take and what you need to cut out. So he started fiddling with things, adding things, and the things started to increase in, I don't quite know how to say it, but they started to get, the drugs kept getting stronger too. So
Gotcha.
like, I would be put on like, they kind of
A
start.
different type of drug.
Yeah, then there's.
What's stronger than lithium? Isn't that like the whole point of lithium? It's like God tier. I don't know. Apparently there's something stronger than lithium.
Then they start to try atypical antipsychotics, right?
Mhm.
So now you've got the big guns, right? And those will just knock you out and blunt you and make you just flat. But they did up my Lamictal, and that did seem to help a little bit. But then my symptoms started to get very weird. I started to get dizzy, and not just the kind of dizzy, like dizzy's so. I hate dizzy because dizzy's so hard to describe. Dizzy like the room spinning? No. Dizzy like you were having a head rush or, that kind of thing? No. It
What
was
about like when you twirl in a circle like a whole bunch of times?
Yeah.
and
I think the word you're looking for is vertigo.
It was more of that kind of dizzy, like your head wasn't your
I did speed them up a little bit more. I'm sorry. It's taking too long.
my brain didn't know where my body was.
Yeah.
So I'm like going up the stairs.
Yeah, I've had that. Anna, is there anything you haven't had? Just wanting to check, asking for a friend.
I'm missing step. If the lights are off, I noticed I didn't know where I was. Like I couldn't, like, you know how you can turn the light off in your kitchen and get to the stairs? You kind of just know the way. And I would be like on the other side of the room. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what's happening? And I get to the top of the steps. And it was like I had run a marathon. I was tasked with trying to clear an entire 1 acre piece of property of blackberries and vines so that I could get my mother-in-law house put onto the market. And I left doing that over a 2-day period.
That was a bad edit. Who's editing this? That's the Anna's episode had some weird editing in it, and this one, that was a weird cut too.
Incredibly dizzy, incredibly lightheaded, feeling very sick. Just not myself at all, but I had put in a lot of physical labor that day, more than I normally do. And so I thought, this is just what a hard day's labor is going to feel like for you. And you're just not the same age anymore. You just need to get it together, and you'll have a couple of days of rest, and then you'll just hit the ground running again. But I never felt very good after that. I was dizzy. My muscles hurt. My balance was off, which was weird because all of a sudden I just couldn't balance the same way that I used to. I just sort of felt awful, but I attributed it.
They're really weird edits. Like, not only are they noticeable, but like the volume and the sound quality's changing. It's strange. Anyway, I'm thinking it was the blackberry vine. I just was lethargic and I'm depressed. So, when you're lethargic and you're depressed, I mean, those two kind of go hand in hand. Oh. But it continued to get worse. It continued to get worse. And my psychiatrist said, I really want you to see a neurologist. I think you need to see a neurologist. So I said, okay, I'm going to go see a neurologist. The neurologist, finally, you know how long it takes to get into any kind of specialist, right? So. You haven't been to a neurologist? You got diagnosed with bipolar type 2. Look, I don't know. I've never been diagnosed with that. I just feel like you would have gone to a neurologist by now, right? I had to go to one to get diagnosed with my migraines. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know how this works. But like, you haven't been to one before now? Wow. Okay.
Finally, I get
6 months to a year, baby.
Get in to see a neurologist, and he, watches me walk and does the neuro exam, and he's going through all the things, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't, everything looks good, everything looks fine, but maybe you should try some physical therapy, like some balance training, and we'll get you in to see a physical therapist." So I get in to see the physical therapist, and
wait, hold on. So I'm just trying to process this. So my brain does not like this.
Yes.
Oh my God. They told you to go do physical stuff. My brain does not like this. We know, Hannah. We know. Several people in the comments section of the last episode, which was actually talking about the girl with the food sensitivities, because I think she also mentioned that she had been put in physical therapy, were mentioning how physical therapy is actually apparently a pretty common treatment for everything, honestly, it sounds like. But I think the point is that physical therapy is good for you. And so it's a good first step. Um, especially when your complaint is, I can't walk straight, you know, I'm losing my balance while I'm walking. I feel like, especially if you're like an older person, which she's got to be at this point. Her kids have moved out, you know, she's got to be in like her late 40s, early 50s at this point, unless she had her kids when she was in her teens. So I feel like that's not an unreasonable thing to suggest to somebody. And also, if you go to a physical therapist and the physical therapy isn't solving the problem or helping with the issue, that would, I think, indicate to you that it's something else besides a physical malady, right? It's a process of elimination. And people like Anna don't seem to like that as an explanation. They seem to think that you're supposed to walk into the doctor waves a magic wand and goes, "Oh, that's what's wrong with you. Boopity boppity boop." And then you're supposed to walk out of the doctor's office completely fine. And I don't think people understand, especially people like Anna and apparently this woman, that it takes time to figure out what's wrong with you because so many things have the same symptoms. So many things overlap. Same thing with like mental disorders. Like maybe she had ADHD. Maybe she's always been bipolar. You know, like maybe she's got something else entirely. The problem is without a process of elimination, we don't know. Now, is she still on 5 different medications or is she only on a handful? I guess 5 would be a handful at this point. But anyway, like it's very important to her to tell us all the drugs that she's on. Is she still on these medications? I swear to God, Nova, if you get kidnapped by aliens, no, get out of there. No. Erwin is the one who is supposed to get kidnapped by aliens, not you. Go down here. Anyway.
You are dizzy. You are dizzy and you can't see things. And they're like, physical therapy will solve it.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's not acceptable. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
No,
Yes, Dr. Anna, tell us more about what is and isn't acceptable for treatment for things that you know nothing about. Please, Anna. Also, where the fuck is Dr. Nance? Excuse me, you can't tell me that Dr. Nance hasn't recommended physical therapy to her patients before. Where the hell are you?
thank you, because that does bring me back to when you have a bipolar diagnosis and you're taking the kind of medications that I am taking, including, oh yeah, well, I have a little bit of an antipsychotic, that I take.
Yeah.
The doctors are looking at you. Now, I'm not a doctor, Dr. Nance, but I think they try to create a picture in their head. Oh, yes. This person is,
Yes.
this person has depression. She's anxious. She's gone through a lot of things in her life. This is just in her head.
And I will say, Kathy, that when we are in medical school, the way that we diagnose someone is through pattern recognition.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So you have a 6-year-old male, he's coming in with chest pain, clutching his chest, having shortness of breath, right? We're worried about heart attack. For women,
A 6-year-old man? Or did she say 60 very strangely?
it's a 6-year-old woman. She's coming in
Okay,
with
yes.
dizziness and lightheadedness. She's having
Okay, so this woman must be 60.
a panic attack, right?
Mhm.
We are categorizing people based on what is the most likely cause.
Right.
But something that we are all taught to do, but don't necessarily do all the time, is think of a differential diagnosis. So you may have the one diagnosis that's screaming in your face, this is what it is, but it's not always that. And sometimes the smaller clues are what you have to pick up on and realize there could be other patterns that exist. They may not, be the blaring one, but a lot of times those symptoms are very nuanced. And even your description of not being able to turn out, like the light, it reminds me of, there is a sense, we have our sight, our smell, our hearing, but proprioception is a sense, which is how we interact with things in a 3D manner, right? How can I put my hair up in a ponytail without looking at it, but still know that I can put my hair up in a ponytail? How can I make sure that as I take a step, I don't have to look down to take a step? I just know how to take a step down the stairs. And so I'm curious, because that's, what I was listening to you describe your symptoms
I always look when I go down the stairs, but that's because I don't want to fall on my face.
down the stairs. And so I'm curious, because that's, what I was listening to you describe your symptoms. That's really what I picked up on, was that there was an issue with that sense. But I'm curious if that was brought up at this stage.
I'm all in now. Please tell me
like,
more.
I'm nodding my head like crazily because I'm like, yes. And that's so hard to as a person who maybe has never had that happen to them before, it's so hard to explain, that
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I actually didn't know what it was called, but
Proprioception?
Proprioception.
Word of the day.
Yeah.
Proprioception.
Yeah. So that was off. It's real off. But every time I would go to a new doctor, like a specialist or something like that, I would be like, how do I come across as a credible human here so that they listen to my symptoms and not look at the picture that's in front of them, like close their eyes and don't look at the chart, and you know what I mean? How do I do that? And I honestly, I still don't know how to do that. And
am I just lucky in that when I go to the doctor, and keep in mind I'm on Medicaid, yeah, my doctors don't even look at the chart until we're halfway through my appointment, like when I go in for like a just a general appointment, right? They sit down and they talk with me. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not in there for like hours. I think the longest one of my appointments has been maybe an hour and 15 minutes, maybe. Usually I'm sitting there waiting longer than I'm actually talking to my doctors, but like they always come in and ask me questions first, usually like, how are you feeling? What's been going on lately? Like, I know they've read my chart before they come into the room because that's their job, but like they don't pull my chart up and start eyeballing me until after we've had a brief conversation. Is that weird? Like, does Pennsylvania just have strange doctors? Is that what I'm to be taking away from this? Okay. This is very strange to me. Like, yeah, my doctors obviously are aware that I have a chart and there's obviously notes in there and things like that. But shit, I can request a copy of I can go online and look at my chart so I can see what they're saying about me. Like, is this weird? I don't understand. She's making it sound like she has no idea what's going on. And like her doctors are just treating her like some kind of like feral child that's waiting to chew their arms off if they twitch wrong, and I don't understand. I'm sorry. Anyway, I don't get people who are combative with their doctors like this. And I know I know there are people who are worse, but I don't understand people that view their doctors as adversaries versus like people that are doing their jobs. I don't get it, but whatever. I'm a weird person too, so like, I honestly don't care if my doctors aren't warm and fuzzy. So
I continued on. I'm
mad for you. I'm mad for you right now.
Thank you, Anna. Somebody needed you to be mad for them.
How dare they treat you like that?
She is indignant. She's indignant.
So I went to physical therapy. They had me try to stand on one foot. I couldn't stand on one foot, like not even for a second. And
neither can Anna. What's your point?
Just like fall over?
Yeah, I would just fall over. Just timber. That just was so weird. And they were like, yeah, that is kind of weird. That is kind of weird. Meanwhile,
yeah, it's weird.
There's a lot of reasons why a person couldn't stand on one foot. Vertigo would be one of them. Anna can't stand on one leg. Throwing it out there. She doesn't have vertigo. Amber can't stand on one leg. Put it out there. A lot of reasons why you may not be able to stand on one leg.
Meanwhile, I start having pain in my shoulder on the side of my neck, and it's
Did it-
so awful. And then going down my back, and then I started getting that sciatic, like that pain that goes down the back of your leg. And they're like, oh, you're just tense, you're so stressed, and we're going to do some massage on you. We're going to put like little, like a little unit that. Like
Oh,
a
a TENS
biofeedback
machine.
kind of, like a TENS machine.
Yeah.
And so I just keep doing all the things.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Where you were starting to get pain up here, like in the shoulders, was it the same place that it had hurt like earlier on? When you remember you were telling us during your last depressive episode that you kind of had a lot of body pains. Was it the same exact locations or like a little bit different?
Yeah, it kind of was. It kind of was. I didn't really put those two together though until much later. But that's really a good kind of catch.
Rachel's a boy, right?
That I think
I'm trying to be a detective here. I don't know anything, so I'm like, maybe I can figure it out with limited medical knowledge.
That's a really good question. So I'm still complaining, right?
Very limited medical knowledge.
Right. So the neurologist says maybe you need to go see infectious disease because you were clearing a lot of brush and doing a lot of yard work, and maybe something in that whole thing, is causing this problem. So
now I'm scared of the outdoors.
Yeah, infectious disease. They tested me for Lyme and for the whole battery that they could test you for any kind of crazy.
Something scary about Lyme. There's actually a type of Lyme that doesn't show up on the Lyme tests. Fun times. She was having symptoms before she said that she was having symptoms before she cleared the blackberry bushes. And obviously she didn't go to the doctor to get help until after the blackberry bushes. So if her symptoms predate the blackberry bushes, why are they treating the blackberry bushes as if they were the origin? Again, they're probably just trying to eliminate things as best as they can. So that's probably what's going on here. But I don't understand why we're using the brush as the origin point for this. That's cute. I'm gonna go with that. Yeah. We're not. We're gonna go with this. Me little nerd like his papa.
Thing that could be in the soil or in dust or anything that could be making these symptoms. They tested me for it. And of course,
you would be surprised how many things that are in the ground that can just destroy you. Just destroy you. Liquidize your brain. You would be surprised. There's a whole book. What is it? Horrible Ways to Die or something like that. And it's written for archaeologists. And it's literally all of the terrifying ways you can die from just putting a shovel into the ground and stirring up spores. Fun times. It's a horrible book to read.
Everything comes back negative. And that feeling like where you just, even if it's horrible, like even if it's it's the worst news ever, like, oh, we're really sorry, Kathy, you have cancer. You would just be like, oh, thank God. I can stop, I can, at least I know, at least I can name it. And that's so horrible. But when you're so desperate, that's how desperate you become when you don't know what's wrong with you. You just get desperate. Please just tell me I have something, because you begin to feel like maybe I am crazy. I mean, maybe I'm freaking crazy. I've lost my freaking mind, right? I mean,
I have a lot of friends who I have a surprising number of acquaintances and friends who have, it's just undiagnosed. We don't know what's wrong with you, but there's something wrong with you. There's a name for it. In our NF something, it's a surprising number of people that I know who just, there's something wrong. They just don't know what. And they try to treat them for it, but they don't know what it is. So they don't know exactly how to treat you. I guess my point is this whole like, oh, thank God I'm not crazy. Like, none of these people are crazy. And I don't feel like, I mean, maybe I'm not there when they go to the doctors and stuff like that. But I don't think the doctors are like, nah, it's all in your head. I think the doctors are like, there's something wrong. You just don't know what. I don't think they're telling my acquaintances and friends that they're crazy because they feel like there's something wrong, or clearly there is something wrong. I don't know. This whole thing feels a lot like those stories that Fat Acceptance likes to tell about how they go to the doctors and the doctors turn them away because they're too fat. It's it kind of has that kind of a feeling. Oh, I went to the doctor and they told me that I was crazy and there's nothing wrong with me. You went to how many doctors and they all told you that? I mean, how many doctors did you go to? I just like, there's a lot. I have a lot of questions. And none of them are going to make it look, I mean, all of them make this look bad, but I don't know. I'm sorry. It's not sitting well with me. And I'm sorry to be like that, but it's just not sitting well with me.
And the unknowing part is what causes anxiety. And so
Yes.
when you present to a doctor, you present as an anxious person, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have anxiety disorder. But sometimes people cannot understand the difference. And I think that what we need to be looking at, certainly in the medical field, is the mental toll that the diagnosis journey takes on our patients, whether it is from the never-ending cycle of seeing people and not getting results, or being put on, treatments that make you actually feel worse than it's supposed to be making you feel better. And that is inflicting a lot of mental anguish on our patients.
Thank you.
Preach.
Yes. Thank you for, you're so right. It really does. It really is a mind, excuse my language, it's a mind fuck,
I guess doctors are just different here in Pennsylvania. I guess that's all. I guess that's all I have to say. I guess you just need to move to Pennsylvania. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't think there's any other phrase that fits it right.
Yeah. So I'm in the ID doctor. I'm telling him, that I'm in physical therapy and nothing is helping me. And they sort of just like, well, maybe you should go to your primary care. They sort of just like, not they. I don't mean they as on all doctors. I just mean when you are a doctor and I think you don't know what to say to somebody, you kind of just kick the can a little bit down the road. Like, maybe she could go and maybe they can help her or something. So
your doctor's sending you to a specialist because they can't help you is them kicking the can down the road. I will remember that when I go see my menopause specialist. I will inform them that my OBGYN sent me to them so that they could kick said proverbial can down the road so that they don't have to deal with me. I'm sure that'll go over really well. I'm sure that'll go over really well.
I went to go visit my son and I got onto the plane and I've taken this trip, hundreds and hundreds of times over the last few decades. And I could not sit still on the airplane. My leg and my hip hurt so bad. I was sweating. I was in the window seat. I had to try to arrange to get up and kind of walk around. I could not get the pain out of my hip. And it just continued to happen every time I get in a car and take a long trip. My leg was just on fire. And doctors thought it was some sort of pinched nerve or a sciatica kind of problem with my sciatic nerve. I'd never had that problem before, although I knew people that it had happened to, and it kind of seemed similar to what they were talking about. But it came on out of nowhere, and it was unbelievably painful. So I went to go see my son, and he could barely get off the airplane. My leg was just killing me. My body is killing me. And I had noticed also that my vision was getting kind of, when I was watching the TV, things were not focusing very well. When I was driving at night, I was kind of having a hard time driving. And, I've had glasses, since I was in high school. So I happened to walk on, down the street, cute glasses in the window, such cute glasses. I'm like, oh, I really want those. Those are adorable. Like, those are so trendy and cute. And I just love them. I went in, I said, I need a new prescription. And they're like, you can see the optometrist. So I see the optometrist and she's going through all the testing and everything. And she says, wait a minute. Has anybody ever told you have double vision? And I said, no, never. And she says, oh, do you have I see you have ADHD.
When was the last time you went to the doctor to get your eyes checked? I would imagine if you have double vision, that'd be kind of noticeable. Just say it. Say it. Look, man, the only reason I didn't know I was anemic is because I didn't get my blood tested, okay? I'm putting that out there just to let people know. Okay. Whatever. What do I know? How do I know?
And I'm like, yeah, I have ADHD. And she says, nobody's ever told you that? You have to know. She's like, I really want you to see our specialist because he's a neuro optometrist and he specializes in BVD, which BVD and ADHD mimic each other in their symptoms. So if you have brain fog, you get headaches, you are inattentive, you are impulsive. So a lot of the same things that you have when you have ADHD, you can get having this. And it's basically because your eyes don't quite line up either vertically, like line up this vertically or horizontally, one of the two. So she said, you're walking around just like, not like straight ahead. You're walking with your head slightly to the left. And every time we talk, you slightly turn your head to the left. And I was like, oh, well, that's really interesting. And like, she was really watching my body. And so I met with the doctor, and he,
As I correct my head.
Yeah, we all turn our head to the side.
I'm seriously sitting here being like, I've never noticed if somebody's head tilts one way or another. I'm not observational.
Well, you sometimes do that when you're paying attention to somebody. You're like, listen, you turn your head. But she said it's like just like all the time.
Askew.
It's just slightly askew.
Shout out to that woman for paying attention, because I would have never noticed that.
I know.
Shout out to the optometrist for noticing that you have double vision. I'm starting to lose words. Looking for like a snazzy evening hairstyle. I need a brain refresher. Hang on, guys. It's not as bad as like, oh, the stupid, it burns, but it's like this. There's a certain kind of person who sits here and listens to this kind of story and relates to it, right? There's a certain kind of person who listens to Anna's story and is like, oh my God, why aren't more people aware of this? You know, there's a certain kind of person who does that. And then there's me. And I sit here and I hear these things and I hear the inconsistencies and I hear the absences and I'm like, yeah, but why didn't you do X? And why are you surprised about Z? Why are you surprised an optometrist found your double vision? Why were they looking for a cause from the blackberry vines when you were having symptoms prior to that? Did you not mention it? You know, like, how many drugs are you still on? You say you're on an antipsychotic. You've told us the name of every other freaking drug you're on. Why won't you say the name of the antipsychotic? Is it that, like, is it gonna make people go, whoa, that badly? I mean, I don't think she's psychotic. Antipsychotics are used for a lot of things. Like, I was actually prescribed them once upon a time for my migraines. I never took them, but I was prescribed them. So they use antipsychotics for a lot of things off label. It's not like just because you're on one doesn't mean you're psychotic. I mean, maybe it does, but I'm just saying. So, like, I don't get it. There's just a lot of things here that just aren't lining up, and even we're only a half hour through this. Oh my God. I'm glad you guys like these long ones.
Like, and also like, okay, one question of clarity, because I don't fully understand. What does double vision mean? Is that the tilt, or does it mean you see like literally double? Because in my mind, you see the world twice.
It is like if you saw lines and it was one line, you would see two lines.
Oh, so it's kind of like you know how when you see like things in 3D without the glasses and the lines are just like slightly off, and then when you put on the glasses, they're like
everything comes together.
Yes.
But what your brain is so amazing, right? Because apparently,
is it?
When they did the testing on me, he said that my vision would be double, and then I would smash it. I would smash the line, and it would become single.
You're a superhero.
My eyes were working like double time. All the muscles in my eyes were working double time to make it so it wasn't double vision. So the
human body is so cool. It's so cool. Like the fact that your body did this, like shout out to your body.
I know. He's like, you've probably had this for a really long time because you're really good at smashing this image back. You know, it's really like nanoseconds, you know? So the correction for this is prisms in your glasses.
Wait.
And so they did the testing and he's like, yeah, you kind of have one of the strongest prisms that I've seen ever. Like this is pretty strong. He said, but this should help your dizziness. And I put those glasses on and oh my God, I cried. I just cried. I everything was so clear and I wasn't as dizzy. And so I went home. They said also because you turn your head a little bit, like you're turning your head a little bit to focus on things, it's creating a misalignment in your spine. And so,
No way.
So that's why your whole like side of your body is feeling a little bit off, or you're having pains on your muscles and stuff because you're not quite walking around like with a straight back. You're kind of like,
So it wasn't anxiety. It was the fact that your eyes were trying to just see normal.
Yeah, it was weird. It was so weird, but I was so hopeful and so happy. I got these glasses. I go home. I get off the plane. I'm feeling really good. My leg doesn't hurt as bad. I get home and I'm walking up the stairs and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, well, that didn't stop. And things were better, like a little bit, but I still couldn't stand up on one foot. I still couldn't close my eyes and know where I was in space. And I was still having fogginess and just sort of not with it, not altogether there.
So that wasn't it. I mean, at least as far as we know at this point.
Yeah.
That's not it.
It wasn't it. And I said, well, maybe it's just like I noticed that I was not able, like I did this for about 3 months. And then I flew back to him because I had to get on a plane. Like, can you imagine? The cost was like,
oh wait, so this guy's not even here. It's like he's by your son, right?
I just happened to be at, it was complete kismet that I had run into him, that I walked in of all the places in the whole, there's not a lot of these people around that.
All the places in all the world. You went to an optometrist. There's not a lot of optometrists around
that specialize in this. So I went back to him and he said, yeah, your prescription has gotten worse.
What?
Worse to the point where it's not just a little worse. Like, we need to change your prescription. And these glasses with these prisms, and I don't have vision insurance. So they're thousands.
How long had you had the glasses for before you had to go get new ones?
I want to say it was between 3 and 5 months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Right?
But that rapid change in vision, what did the neuro-ophthalmologist say about that?
He was the only one that put me on to my next thing to try, which was, he said, I am wondering if you actually have something wrong with your ears. Like, there's like this tiniest bones in your body are in your ears. And these little bones can get a crack on them and it can cause you a lot of like vertigo kind of stuff, or can cause all kinds of weird stuff. So I thought, well, I guess that's my next thing to try is I'm going to go look for that. So in between getting the glasses and getting the next set of glasses, I had set up an appointment at a major university with a neuro-ophthalmologist. Because this last doctor was a neuro-optometrist.
But was it Andrew Huberman? Did you set up an appointment with Andrew Huberman? Okay.
And so my other doctors thought a neuro-ophthalmologist might know what's going on. I called the office, I made an appointment, and it was for, it was several months. It was a few months. It took me to get the appointment. So I waited the several months, and then I actually made a trip to go and had to get on the plane again and schlep all the way there. And once I was there, I was in their office. And when I got there and I was in the waiting room and I'm in this big university and I feel like, okay, I'm finally going to get into the right place. And they're going to be able to tell me what's going on with me, what's going on with my eyes, what's going on with my balance. Why is this happening? I'm going to get answers because these are the people that you go to. And I went into the exam room. I was very hopeful. And he looked at me for a few minutes and said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And I opened my mouth to say something like, I came all this way. I've waited so long for this appointment. I wanted to say that out loud. And I was so, it was so like, I just fawned in that moment because
Okay. We're crying. Good. All right. Cool. Good times. I'm going to take a potty break and we'll be right back. All right, let's get back. Let's get back to this. We got a happy baby. We got Kathy
I
crying.
had built everything up in my head that he would be able to fix me, or at least tell me what was going on, because sometimes you just want to know what's wrong with me. If you just had a reason of why things were the way they are, maybe you could cope with it better. And so I just sat there with my mouth open. I couldn't speak. And I was so angry, and I left, and I just put it in a box and put it away in my head because it was the most hopeless feeling to be with somebody that could help you, and they just looked at you and said there's nothing they could do, and I couldn't tell if it was because of my mental health issues or the medications that I was on or all the doctors that I had seen.
Did you ask? I mean, my next question would be, why?
I couldn't tell what it was. I couldn't tell if it was me. It's kind of like he just looked at me and said, I can't help you. And
You got up and left? I can't help you. Okay, cool. Bye. See ya. Why can't you help me? Well, because something, 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 you might want to go see this guy. Or, I don't know, man. Okay.
you never think that you're going to be in a situation like that when you're a strong, capable person, that you'll be able to stand up for yourself and say, wait a minute, will you?
I hear a lot of strong, capable people, self-described strong, capable people who seem to be very incapable and emotionally not strong. Y'all seem to be on the internet telling me how strong and capable you are.
Please come back and explain yourself to me. I have come all this way and I just need an explanation. And you think in that moment that you're going to be able to stand up and say that, and I couldn't. I was shocked. I think I'd been through so much, and you get to a point where you're so beaten down. You're so beaten down, and you question yourself. Like, is this in my head? Is this all in my head? Have I completely made this all up?
So I left there and I was just devastated. And my depression just took on a whole life of its own.
Because was
Hopelessness
there
about it.
any other pathway for
Well,
at that time? Did you feel like there was any other pathway?
The ear thing was the next step to go to. And I was going to do that, definitely. But, I hadn't even, I had to find the person, because this doctor that I saw that told me to go to him, he's in a completely different, he's out of state. So I can't go, I can't go see, I got to find somebody kind of where I am, it's a whole process. So we live in a real rural area, like way out in the boonies. Can't see your neighbors kind of thing. And I'm, walking around the house, and I was doing some, not remodeling, but I gotten some stuff out of some boxes. I had about 5 or 6 big boxes, and I was moving them around, and I had to go and answer the phone. I went to go grab my phone, and I moved the boxes at the same time with my foot, and I went backwards, like just timber backwards. And as I was falling backwards, I knew that I was not in a good place. I knew there was a piece of low furniture behind me, but I didn't know where I would hit that. But you have so many things happen, right in that split second where something bad is, something, oh, this is going to be bad. And that you're in a bad place. And sure enough, I hit right on the corner of this low cabinet. It was like a TV cabinet. And I knew immediately I had done something very bad. It hit me square in the spine.
Oof.
And luckily I had been going to grab my cell phone. So it was right there. I had to call, nobody's around. There's nobody around. I can't call a neighbor. So I called 911, and the fire department comes. I can't even let them, I don't even know if the door is unlocked. Thank God it was unlocked. I didn't know how they were going to get in. I couldn't move. I was down. They get me.
I mean, if you don't answer, they will take your door down, so no worries.
On a gurney, take me to the hospital.
That's my understanding. I've never had to have them do that. So
Never had an ambulance ride before, so that was crazy. Get to the hospital, and I did. I had broken my spine, my a vertebra.
Oh my gosh.
I cracked it. Luckily, just the side of it, but I'd also done a lot of trauma to the tissue in my back. So I thought, gosh, I'm not making this up, you guys.
Yeah. It's like you can't win.
I'm not. How can your mind make you lose balance and you break your back? Just moving a box with your foot, just picking your foot up off the ground and moving a box, and you go over backwards. So
I'm curious, Kathy, at this point, because you are presenting to the hospital for the back problem, right? The broken back.
Emergency room.
But did anyone pay attention to why you broke the back in the first place?
no,
Of course not.
no. They looked at
Okay, something that people were pointing out in the last episode that I did, which would have been episode 3, the girl kept going to the emergency room and she kept going, oh, they have no idea what's going on with me in the emergency room. And it's something that we keep harping on Amber about. The emergency room is not your doctor. Their job is to keep you alive, not diagnose you, right? And so on the one hand, she's like, no, they didn't even try to figure out why I fell. Well, I mean, first off, you're in the emergency room. Their job is to make sure you can walk, I guess, or stabilize you if you can't. And secondly, like, you want me to believe that you went into the emergency room and they didn't ask what happened? Part of being able to treat you is knowing what led to you getting injured. You want me to believe that no one was like, oh, how did she break her back? Ah, fuck it. Let's just go find out what's wrong. And yeah, no one cares how it happened. Really? I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I get why there was a comment on this episode that got deleted because they were deleting comments before they took the ability to comment away. It wasn't negative. It actually said something like, my takeaway from this episode, my unfortunate takeaway from this episode is that you shouldn't trust your doctors. And then they said something else that basically backed up that statement. And Dr. Nance actually replied to it. And Dr. Nance her reply was basically like, wow, that was stupid. How could you have taken that away from this episode? And you're completely wrong. And then the comment got deleted completely. So it doesn't really matter. And it was just like, I get why that comment was left now. Because this woman hasn't gone to a doctor yet that has helped her, right? Every doctor she's gone to, even the ones at the beginning, have just dismissed her for any number of reasons. And it's like, the only common denominator here is you. So every doctor you've ever been to your entire life has taken one look at you your entire life and just gone, meh, and walked away and just like thrown some pills at you and been like, sink or swim. Really? That's been your entire life for no apparent reason? I don't understand. I really don't understand. Up to and including an emergency room where you fell and potentially could have broken your back, and you go to the emergency room and they don't even want to know how you injured your back. I know their job isn't to diagnose, but they're going to want to know how you hurt yourself. I would think, again, I've never been to an emergency room. I'm sure my time is coming, but guys, I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm sorry. It's not, okay, it might be as bad as Anna's, but it doesn't feel like there's as much delusion in this one, but I still feel like there's a shit ton of misinformation in here. And where the fuck is Dr. Nance? What is the point of having Dr. Nance's name on this podcast? So, yeah, you guys go have that satisfying relationship. Anyway.
my medications, I think. And they said, yeah, well, I don't know.
I am so mad. I'm fascinated because I really want to know what this is. And I feel like this is like a mystery, which is so fun. It's way more fun than I thought it would be, which is weird. I'm not delighting in your trauma. I'm just saying it's fascinating where we've gone on this journey so far and we're not even there yet. And I think that's the comedy specialists you've seen at this point. You've seen a psychiatrist, you've seen an eye doctor, you're going to see an ear doctor. You're obviously now seeing a back doctor, right? You've seen a neurologist.
Yeah.
Like, 5 people have seen you and all of them are like, no.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, Anna, that's exactly what doctors like. "Rrr, I only went to med school for 8 years and then did probably another 10 years as an intern. You know, fuck what I know. I had to take some pills. Oh, you're on a antipsychotic? Well, I can't help you. Guys, come on, seriously. Okay, sure, yeah, whatever. That's how the medical system works. Sure, whatever. Anyway,
Oh yeah, I can laugh about it now, so that's good news, right?
Gotta find humor in the dark, right?
Right?
That's the only way through
You
sometimes.
totally do. I mean, if you
this shit
can't laugh
hurt.
about
Who
it,
the
I
fuck are
mean,
you?
so I was kind of laid up
Where'd you come
then
from?
and got more depressed and more depressed and more depressed and became
Who are
suicidal.
you? I know
And
who you are.
that
I had other
was
children at the gym.
very scary. But I just felt like I couldn't live this way. I just couldn't continue to live this way. And I was hopeless. I just felt like I'd seen so many people and so many of these really smart people had not been able to figure this out. And I'm like, I'm crazy. Am I crazy? Is this, and I don't even, saying the word crazy, it's just, I hate that word. I really hate that word. But it's the only descriptive word that I can think of.
Why is your go-to that you're crazy? Like, again, I have a number of acquaintances who have just like undefined disorder. Like it doesn't have a name. It has a name and it's basically like, I don't know. And the whole point is there's something wrong, but they don't know what, right? And I just why is your go-to that you're crazy? Why weren't you put into that category? Also, how many meds are you on again? Are you still on Adderall and lithium and Lamictal and Paxil? Or did they take you off the Paxil? Prozac, my bad.
Is there something wrong with my brain that I am inventing this? Is this like another, like, you know, what do they call it? Dr. It's like somatic,
Dr.
you know,
Nance.
like
Psychosomatic.
yeah. Like, is this like in your head? You know, am I
Yeah.
and the, you know, the other
Watch the damn
tripod was
punching
kind
bag.
of teetering. You know, when you've been depressed for this long and there's something wrong with you, the people around you start to get a little tired of it. Living with
Yeah.
somebody who's chronically ill, you know, it's hard. So having to listen to that all the time just gets really hard when you have an invisible illness that you look fine on the outside. Why are you so effed up? It's just hard for people's brains, I think, to have to live with that. So you're
That's
so
why this is
depressed,
here.
you can't even get onto a Reddit or anything to try to get support because you're, well, actually, I'm going to.
And then it's like, can you trust Reddit? Like,
Right.
Sometimes it's like,
sometimes
is that the best resource?
I don't know, man. I don't know. So I actually did get on. I did get on.
Oh, okay. This gets juicier.
Reddit. I did get on Reddit. So
Well,
I'm so depressed.
Dr.
I'm
Nance
so
is like,
depressed.
oh no.
She's like, oh god.
Reddit doctors.
Google. The Google. So I got on Reddit because I'm depressed. I'm super depressed. What can I do about this depression? And I started reading about ketamine.
Okay.
And I started looking at the studies. And I actually found a clinic in my town, close to my town, that had IV ketamine therapy for treatment-resistant depression, which is what they were telling me that I heard. Okay. So I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I mean, it sounds like to me as this sort of like straight laced or, you know what I mean? But I am like in my 50s. I'm a mom, never really done anything fun, you know?
I was a person who didn't drink till I was 21 because it was illegal.
That's how I was kind of that way, you know? I was like, oh, can't do this, can't do that.
Yeah.
So this was a huge kind of leap for me, like, oh God, you know, ketamine. Okay. So they said, okay, well, we're going to get you started, but you have to get off of one of your medications because it's, it works. I don't know if I have this right, Dr. Nance, but it like works on the same like neural pathways or something, or like some channel or something like that. So like this,
I have a feeling Dr. Nance doesn't know either, so don't feel bad.
Drug might cancel out some of the benefits of the ketamine. So I started to get off of my Xanax, which is hard to
why is the sound quality changing? That's the weird part for me. It's like the edit wouldn't sound so jarring if the sound quality didn't change. Like, she sounds like a whole different person.
Off of, but I was very motivated. But the Lamictal is even harder to get off of because it can cause seizures. It is a seizure medication used for mood stabilization for people that have bipolar depression. And so you have to be very, very careful. You have to be weaned off of it and very systematically, very slowly. And I had taken it again for so long, I was ready to get off of it. So they were going to wean me off of the Lamictal. And I remember being in my garden and working and worried that I'm going to be like hurting tomorrow. I told myself, but I kept going because it felt so good just to be outside and in the garden and working. And this is before I did the ketamine. This is just after getting off the Lamictal. And so I just continued to work, and then I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning and I didn't feel that bad. And I felt a little sore, but kind of a normal amount of sore. So didn't think very much about it. The sun was shining. I was excited to get out and do another day. So worked again in the yard, putted around the house. And the next day I felt very sore for 2 days in the yard, but not that bad. And so I kind of just went on about my life. A few more days went by, and then I decided, I'm going to go do one more day of like weeding, which is really hard for me because when I bend over and then I go to stand back up again, that's when I fall over. So it's almost like I have to, gradually get up on my hands and my knees and then put one leg on the ground and then get up on, get 3/4 of the way up and then get all the way up before I can't like get down and stand up. But I always forget, because I didn't live my whole life that way. So I would always forget and just kind of go stand straight back up again after bending down and not think of it until I was like going over backwards. So I started to weed. I was weeding. I was making sure that I was taking care of my body. And then about 3/4 of the way through it, I was going to get up and answer the phone really quick. I stood up super fast from weeding, and I stopped myself about 3/4 of the way up, like, I'm going to fall over. I cannot believe I just did that. And I didn't fall, and I didn't feel dizzy. And I was dumbfounded. And then every day after that, I just kept noticing more and more and more that I could do things. And then kind of my final thing was I had to leave. And when I go to leave, I give the cat, I wanted to make sure the cat had a bed, but in order for this bed to be put into the barn, I had to climb up a ladder to secure this bed to this, because it's a barn cat. So I got the ladder out and I said, I don't have to go very far up the ladder. So I'm going to stick it right close to this monkey rack, which was like filled with tools. And so I should be able to like hold onto the monkey rack and hold onto the ladder, and I wouldn't fall backwards, which is what had been happening. So I started to climb up there, and I didn't feel like I was going to fall backwards. I was going really slow and holding on and trying not to lean forward, because leaning forward, like when you're going up a ladder, you're leaning forward. It's that sort of motion that would make me go backwards. So instead of that, because I was holding onto the monkey rack, I was more like up and down. And I was able to throw the bed up there and stand on that ladder for a little while and realize that I did not feel like I was going to fall backwards. So I got down and moved the ladder, and that was kind of the last like major physical thing that I did when I finally thought to myself, this has got to be the medication. This has to be the Lamictal. I mean, what else could make me miraculously feel better? And I couldn't tell if I keep thinking, oh, this is just placebo, right? Like, I'm motivated and I'm happy and I'm excited about this and my adrenaline is up. And so this is like a placebo effect of having these small wins. And no, I don't think it was the placebo effect, because then I was able to, days and days after, until finally I was completely weaned off of the medication and I started the ketamine, that I realized that it was the Lamictal this whole time. And that's when I went and gone on all the medical journals, like not on just like the things that you see, like, no, I was going on to Lancet. I was getting into the PubMed journal articles of Lamictal and what are the side effects. And the side effects I had were very rare, but they are side effects of this medication.
You didn't know what the side effects of the medications you're on were? You've been on Lamictal for how many years? Um, Look, they give you a little pamphlet when you go and get your prescriptions. Mine's like a booklet every fucking time I pick up my prescriptions. And it lists everything that could possibly go wrong, up to and including death with my medications. You never read that? Any of the times you went and got your prescription filled? For how many years? It never... Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Mystery solved. Boys and girls, let this be a lesson. Read the fucking pamphlet. My God. Seriously? Seriously? This whole time, it's because she didn't know what the side effects of her fucking drugs were? Okay.
Of too much of this medication. And it wasn't, what's strange is it wasn't that much more medication than I had been on for 20 years. It was just that little tiny bit more that pushed me over the edge and turned me into a completely different person. At first, I was super excited that I'm feel cured, but then I had just pure grief that I'd spent 2 years of my life, 2 whole years of my life, just feeling this.
God, she even sounds like Anna when she cries. I wonder if I could see like the video of this, if she looks like Anna when she cries. Like she's trying to like pass a kidney stone or something.
I lost out on so much. I had said no to so many things.
2 years you were on a medication and you didn't know what the side effects were. 2 years you just blindly took a medication. Lamigdal, of all things. Did you look at what the side effects of the antipsychotic you're on are? Because I'd be a little, like, you'd be surprised. I'm floored. I don't have words. How many of you out there just blindly take medication? It's not a requirement. If they give you drugs and you read it and you're like, nah, I don't like this, you don't have to take the drugs. You know that, right? Or you can ask questions. You can be like, hey, doc, it says that this might be a side effect. I'm kind of concerned about that. Is there something else I could take that maybe doesn't have this side effect? Maybe can I take a lower dose? I have no words. This broke me. You win. You win, medical detectives.
I had stopped doing things. I
Oh
had stopped
my God.
trying. I had lost confidence in myself and who I was as a person. It had made me depressed in ways that were so profound.
I don't know what the
To the point
baby
that
did,
I
but the
needed
baby did
ketamine.
something.
You know?
What did he do?
And if it hadn't been for the ketamine, I don't know. I might still be there right now. I might still be feeling that right now.
Did you take the
So
ketamine?
the ketamine was like it did help me with my depression. So
So you did end up eventually taking the ketamine. So you got off the Lamigdal and also took the ketamine at the same time. Okay. So did you look at the side effects of the ketamine? Or were you just like, yeah, ketamine? Oh no.
you know, spoiler alert, that really did. That did really help me.
Spoiler alert. Don't listen to your doctors. Go directly to Reddit and start taking ketamine. That's the lesson. That's the lesson from this podcast. God. How many minutes are left? 6. We can do this. We can do this, I promise.
But just getting off of that amygdala helped me so much more.
So this whole time, it's just wild to me that was never, ever looked at when it is a known symptom. Like you would think that like a psychiatric doctor would be like, well, we did bump this up, right? And that's when the changes started. How does that happen, Dr. Nance? Like, how does someone not look
Yeah,
at a
Dr.
change like that
Nance.
and see the impact. Like I don't know.
Defend
What I
yourself.
think is probably the larger issue with your story, Kathy, is that no one doctor really took ownership of your problem, right? And no one said, I am going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
And it may mean that I'm going to send you to other specialists and they may rule out some of these pathways. But in the end, it seemed like you didn't have that one person who was keeping score of everything, who was making sure that all of the boxes, were checked.
Excuse me.
Now, Kathy, what I'm curious is once you self-realized that the lamictal was the issue, did you have any discussion with the psychiatrist over what happened?
Yeah, I had a psychiatrist who left and moved to a different state, and he recommended the psychiatrist I'd been seeing that bumped up the lamictal, and I had been thinking about getting a different psychiatrist, and at the very same time that this was happening, he did not want me to do ketamine, by the way. He was like, don't do ketamine. That's a really bad idea. But I felt like I really had to listen.
Well, clearly he was trying to keep you from solving your problem. Because something keeping you on the wrong dosage of lamigdal was something giving him power? Conspiracy. Purple because aliens wear hats.
To myself in that moment, I just needed to trust myself for a second, and I was desperate to do something, and so I know this felt like a desperate move, and it cost a lot of money. It took a lot of resources, but I did it, and then after I did it, I went ahead and my psychiatrist moved back to my town, and he agreed to take me back on. And so it turned out, like, I told the psychiatrist that this happened, and his answer was sort of like, oh, well, that's so good that you found it.
What would you say is the takeaway for listeners who have been enthralled by your story, the courage it takes for you to come on a show like this and share this story with people that you...
The takeaway is read the pamphlet for the drugs that they give you and tell your doctors if you're having side effects. Don't expect them to do a Vulcan mind meld with you and know what the fuck's going on, and apparently ignore all of it, go on Reddit, and take ketamine. That's the real takeaway here. The ketamine is the real friends we made along the way. I
don't know. What would you say to everyone who feels like they might have been like you at some point in your journey?
Yeah, as cliche as it sounds, is to just not give up. As hard as it can be and
Grace.
feel to give up, to just keep going. Because
Kathy, I just want to say that
trying to fix the symptom of depression
Shut up, Anna. It's
ended
not your
up
time to talk.
allowing me to know what was wrong with me. And that is something, and I'm still working on that. But if I had just given up, I was just one little thing away, one tiny little thing away from knowing and being able to take back control of my life again and not let this control me, or the feelings that I have about it control me.
And I think a lesson for clinicians is that we have to have an awareness that we are being biased when we see a psychiatric illness on the chart. I think we have to acknowledge that when we see anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, that clouds our judgment. Not saying
the entirety of millennial generation and down has one of those things on their chart. Anxiety, depression. What was the other one? I forget. So every doctor everywhere looks at everyone's chart and goes, can't help you. Sorry. Why are you on here? What is your purpose, Dr. Nance?
that it's right or wrong, but sometimes I think it's to the detriment of looking deeper into a problem because we always have the ability to go back to that diagnosis. And so I think it's about broadening our diagnostic scope to think beyond a label that exists on a patient's chart.
Kathy, if it gives you any peace at all, I will say that I did not come into this thinking I would be emotional or that
And of course, Anna has to cry because the spotlight hasn't been on Anna enough. So she's going to have to cry and let this woman know how much her story has affected Anna, because Anna. Did you know that Anna was on this podcast?
That this would speak to me so personally, but in this conversation, hearing your story has just made me feel a lot less alone. And I'm sure that there are other people listening who have felt the things you felt, maybe in different
Because you are also having a hard time getting off Lamigdal and decided to take ketamine to solve your depression problems, Anna? Okay.
context. My context isn't the same as yours, but it's nice to not feel alone.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a lot of people in my life personally that understand that feeling.
Yeah.
So to hear somebody else's story and hear the honesty and the fragility in that, I just want to say thank you for sharing that, because hopefully this will empower other people to not give up on themselves, to not think that they're crazy, for lack of a better word, and to keep fighting for health, because when you feel good, it is worth it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you're a great example of that.
Yeah.
And
Anna, shut up. It's not your podcast. It's not your story. You need to quit talking over the actual guest. This is not your story. No one cares if you're emotionally.
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much.
Because I didn't expect to be bawling my eyes out, but now here I am. How did we go from scrapbooking parkour to me like bawling my eyes out? Not fair.
You desperately needed to be the center of attention, so you decided to do something to get attention.
I really,
No,
I
it's
really,
good tears.
that's what I hope that I hope that it can give people some hope, even if
It
even
will.
if my problem is not their problem, just knowing that we can, if we keep going, we can overcome. So thank you so much. I really appreciated being on and being able to share this. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on and being so
Thanks,
open.
Kathy.
Okay. 2 hours. Yeah, that's about right. What did we learn? We learned that apparently you can be diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 2 in the 70s. And somehow get put on Adderall for that. No wait, I'm sorry. She wasn't put on Adderall until she was an adult. She just shook off the ADHD as a child. And then I don't know, man. Like the medication timeline is very strange. Like I'm just gonna go off of Dr. Nance's weird description there and go with Kathy's somewhere near 60. She's over 50. So she's somewhere near 60. But she was only on the Lamigdal, she said, for like 2 years or something like that. I don't know. So like her timeline's a little weird, but we're kind of used to that with these kind of stories. I have a lot of questions. None of them probably have answers that I'm going to get. This woman sounds a lot like Anna, where there was something wrong. She didn't like the answer she was getting, and so she just kept looking for someone who would give her the answer she wanted to hear. And then she finally did. Something Reddit ketamine. Look, man, I don't care if you've taken ketamine. I don't care if it's helped you or not. It's just a stupid series of events that get her here. It's just part of the series of events. Anyway, I get why this one had so many interesting comments after it that got deleted. Mostly pointing out that like her story was a little wonky. And then the one comment that I told you guys about where Dr. Nance replied back to it saying, you know, basically the takeaway from the story is don't trust your doctors. So that kind of makes all of that make a little more sense in the long run now. I just keep in mind, this was the second episode. So I've already covered the third episode. The third episode was a lot better. But as some of you have been pointing out in the comments section, there were some holes in that one that I didn't quite catch at the time. Like the fact that she was constantly going to the emergency room, expecting, like Amber does, to be diagnosed and treated there. This woman's the same way. Oh, I went to the emergency room and with a broken back, and they didn't even ask me how I broke it. Really? I feel like that would have been one of the first questions they asked you. Other than, can you tell me what year it is and what's your name? You know? making sure you're coherent. Anyway. So yeah, so I don't know. There's 2 more episodes of this that I'm going to listen to, and not today. But there are 2 more episodes of this to look forward to. I'm hoping after this is Kathy's. Who was the other girl's story? So let's pause this so my Sims don't inadvertently burn themselves to death while I'm checking this, because, you know, Sims. Let's see, what else have we got here? Caroline. Okay, so we did Kathy. This is Kathy. Caroline was the girl who eats baby formula and oatmeal. Hmm. We've got Mary's story, Mary the Miracle. I'm telling you, Anna's writing the copy for these. And then Chan's story, The Mystery of the Protruding Eye. Ooh, that sounds awesome. Yum. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm kind of squeamish. So these are not great for me. I will say here, though, like, Caroline's story, Caroline was a TikToker. They found her through TikTok. I don't know where the hell they found Kathy. But they didn't put any social media information down for Caroline whatsoever. I don't know anything about Mary yet. But Chan apparently does have a TikTok presence as well. And they did actually put Chan's TikTok information down here. I would like to think it's because they heard my criticisms about the fact that they didn't put any social media contact information down for somebody who's clearly got social media contact. So hopefully they are learning from the comment section, even though there's no way to comment. I don't know, man. I don't know how this works anymore. I don't know how podcasting works anymore. I don't know. Anna broke podcasting. So there you go. So those are going to be the next 2 that we're going to listen to is Mary's story and Chan's story. We'll actually go check out Chan's plant. Oh, that's kind of funny, actually. Nice play on words there. Anyway, so we're going to go do those. We'll do them in order. But that's going to be it for these. I think we'll just kind of keep an eye on things going forward. If you guys are listening and one of the episodes catches your attention and you think that it's something that I really, really need to listen to, I'll be more than happy to listen to it. That's all I've got. If you've made it this far in the podcast, bless you. Go ahead and leave a microphone down in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I missed anything, because, you know, I was keeping my Sims from burning their house down at one point. I don't know. Let me know what you think about the Sims game. Who likes Erwin? We all like Erwin, right? He's one of our faves. Nova's another one of my faves. Do you like the name Rigel? If they have another boy, I plan on naming him Orion. I don't know if they have a girl. I don't have a name for that one. Cassiopeia, maybe? Anyhow. That's all I got for you guys. So yeah, leave a microphone in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to my members. You guys rock. Thank you to everybody who's going to hit the thumbs up button. Feel free to go check out the full episode. And that's pretty much it. I will see everybody in the next one. Bye.
This is my outro music. You can't copyright strike me because it's just me singing. This is my outro music. Thank you for watching. See you next time.